On that punt play, just kind of your interpretation of what exactly happened.
Not to, but yeah, I will. I guess. I mean, really, what happened? I mean, look, the situation is you've always got to down the ball, obviously. So that was the biggest thing we didn't do is we sat there, we put a knee on it, we had our hand on it, but they got to rule it as down, and it looked like obviously the official looked like he did. And all that's been discussed, but that's the rule, and obviously we've got to do a great job of understanding that rule and repping it, and that falls on my shoulders. So we can blame whoever we want to blame. The fact of the matter is we didn't execute, and that's my fault. So it isn't anybody else to blame but me on that. So.
How are you maybe coaching them different after that difficult lesson?
I don't think it's that we're coaching them different. I think we're emphasizing it every time we talk about it. I mean, we talk about that in fall camp, and we talk about downing procedures, whether it's in a sky situation like that or it's open field or whatever it may be, because it's really no different from that standpoint. Just overemphasizing it consistently,
So what will you expect your guys to do going forward? Is this situation you can pick up the ball and hand it to the official?
We should always pick up the ball and hand it to the official. Yeah, and we put that on specific people, but now as a group, we got to make sure we understand that fully.
Think of Archer Trafford punting the ball?
He had some good hit balls, and he had some balls that he needs back. I mean, we've got to be more consistent in that position, whoever we run out there. So that's pretty simple.
What about your guys, the Sam linebacker? What do you think they've done well so far, and what do they got to work on, guys like Tyrus?
Same thing, be consistent. I think he's playing physical. I think I've got to get Tim's in the game a little bit more to keep Tyrus fresh as it goes, But the biggest thing is just consistency with effort, with execution, and showing up at the football, and that sounds pretty simple, but that's really what I want to see, to be honest with you.
Is Rodney playing some there too?
No, he hadn't played there much. He played a little bit. I remember it was Law Tech or NC State. I can't remember now, but I think it was Law Tech actually. But he hasn't played since that. He's been more inside linebacker with Zach.
Nolan McCord kind of step up. He's a young guy, but he's handling the kicking duties the last game and a half, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been pretty pleased with Nolan. He kind of got thrown in the fire there mid game of NC State. Kind of a quick deal, and man, he stepped in and he's done a nice job ever since. He's kind of a loose guy. He's competitive, but he's a loose, kind of talkative guy that goes out there, and I don't think the moment's too big for him, and you appreciate that with a specialist.
Is it tough to have kind of the guys that weren't starting the year as the starters with Nolan and Archer coming in mid-second, third game and playing like that?
I think they've all three. Scott Goodman's the other one. They've been done a good job of stepping into it, especially the two kickers. So really been proud of the depth we've shown there and guys that can step in and make an impact.
Did Memphis do anything different to kind of slow down Tulu in the kickoff return, or just
Yeah, all the junk kicks, slowed us down. But ultimately, we got the same kick there on the opposite hash as we got against NC State that went all the way. And that just comes down to execution and putting a hat in a hat and finishing blocks. So yes and no. Yes, there were some junk kicks there that compresses space and makes it a little more difficult to create your seams. But that one that was, I think he caught it at the 1 or the goal line, it's the exact same kick as NC State. And it's just, we've got to execute better.
We've noticed that Austin takes some punts and Wally will take some punts. What's the strategy in that, or is it
situational, field zone, and different things like that?
Is there certain things with Austin that he does that Wally doesn't, or what's the strategy?
In the sky, in like a pooch punt scenario, sky punt scenario, that's something you want to train into a guy and rep it, because there's yard lines and there's cutoffs and there's rules to it, and so we've just trained Austin. And Wally gets the same training. It's just we've kind of put that on Austin's plate.
With the kickoffs with Tulu, do you anticipate a lot of teams are going to be kind of doing those like short kicks, or just kind of make it so that he can't get as clear of a return in the future?
I think it's going to depend on how they feel about their kicker. If they feel like they can hit the ball deep and out of the back of the end zone, I don't think they're going to worry too much about the junk kicking, because there's still obviously the risk you take there. But obviously it's something we've got to be prepared for as we go in every week, because that's obviously a good strategy to reduce the amount of space and things that can happen on a kickoff return.
LSU's had 15 touchbacks and 19 kickoffs, so they're consistently putting the ball in the end zone. How do you feel about your guys bringing it out? Would you automatically want to take a 25? Is it a feel thing? How do you approach that as a coach?
Yeah, to be honest with you, what I look at is we call it 30-yard line penetration, but basically how many bodies are inside the 30-yard line on the catch of the football. And to me, that makes a huge difference. And sometimes they're inside the 25, depending on the speed of the unit. And so you just kind of evaluate it from there.
Coach
Coach Neely mentioned the running backs being involved in special teams. What have you thought of the guys that are in your room as far as what they've been doing on kickoffs and punt returns?
For the running backs or for the running backs. No, I think all of those guys have done a nice job. Woody Marks is a consistent guy. Dylan Johnson's been our off returners. He had some key blocks on some of our big ones. And then Bull Hargrove has been a guy that we've been on punt return a little bit. He has a good get off and does some good things there. So all those guys. Simeon Price is kind of a 4-unit guy for us. So no, we've had some production out of the running back room for sure.
And those kickoffs where you mentioned how many guys are in the 30, I mean, how is that communicated, I guess, to Tula? Does he kind of notice that himself, or you guys off the bench? Or?
Oh, no, we're watching. I'm going to communicate to him before he goes out there. I think that's hard for him to understand. I do think as a returner, you can feel hang time a little bit, right? If it's a yard deep, but it's a line drive, or a couple yards deep in line drive, I think you can feel that as you get through more reps. But as far as understanding the coverage, I don't want him worrying about that. No.
What do you say or signal to him if you don't want him to take it out?
Take it out 1-2 deep, or don't take it out 1-2 deep. It's about that simple. It's not too complex.
A lot of schools in the country, if they lost a kicker for any period of time, the season would almost be wrecked. I mean, how do you kind of use that as a recruiting tool to maybe tell some of these other guys, hey, listen, you never know, you're a play away, but we're going to play our guys? How do you kind of use that as an advantage kind of moving forward?
Yeah, I think it is an advantage from the standpoint of you can physically show it on tape as to, hey, here's a critical situation in a big game, and this guy's got to step up and be ready to play. The other thing is consistency within practice through fall camp, spring ball, and game weeks is you got to be ready to go. And if you're out here not progressing the way we want you to, doesn't matter where you're at on the depth chart, you're not taking full advantage of your opportunity. So to me, that's what it comes down to.
That punt for just 1 second. Did you get an indication was it reviewed after the play? Like, did you get an indication?
Coach Leach has handled that. I don't know on that. Yeah, Coach Leach has handled that.